So on Thursday night, I did a live, not on my channel, but I did it on the guys over at Ringside Fracker's channel. And we did a review of the year of 2024. We gave it a grade. We talked about, the biggest fights, the biggest knockouts, upset prospects, etc. But we also talked about breakout star. And my whole looking at a breakout star as opposed to a prospect. A prospect is someone who's literally just come on the scene. We're seeing good things, and they look like they're going to be, someone who's going to go far. Like it was unanimous, Moses Atelma. I think he's going to go miles in this sport, in this new era of heavyweight. I think he's going to be one of the main guys over the next couple of years. We talk about breakout star. Now, breakout to me is someone who either went a bit under the radar and just there you are, like is it Backram or Dozayev, the guy who beat Tim Tszyu, just like out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa, bam, that was crazy. For me, a breakout star is someone who you didn't think that much of as a fighter. You enjoyed watching them. You thought at the very least they're going to be an entertaining fight, but you never really saw that they would have more gears to go through, or they'd be able to find levels to their game. And that's exactly what I said about Fabio Wardley. That's why he was my breakout star for the year, because Fabio Wardley, I think I seen him first a long time ago. I think it was pre-2020. I think he might have been a guy where there was a video doing, I think it was on a Matchroom show in 2019, where he was asking I think it was Fabio Wardley, because it was the name that was just, you're not used to seeing names like that. Well, certainly I'm not. And I think he asked his corner men, are we going, like during rounds, are we going to five guys after this? Which was, priorities, I guess, at the end of the day. Priority should be the guy you're fighting, but obviously he wasn't that good. So yeah, I think other things can take precedent. That five guys, they do okay burgers, I ain't gonna lie, they're pretty nice. But that was the first time I ever seen him. And back then, very raw. They said that he only had a handful of white collar fights. You could really see it. And I've always said, I'd be the first person to say, if someone, a random boxer, a random amateur, whoever came to me and they said, gee, what would your advice be for turning pro? Even though I'm not a boxer myself, obviously, but they would probably, if they asked me, is having a load of amateur fights and fighting at a high level, is that a must? Is that like something you need to do to be a top fighter, or at least get to a decent level? And I'd always say not necessarily. There are a lot of fighters who they did their kind of amateur career, so to speak, in the pros. They learned on the jobs. It meant that they essentially had to fight at a very low level for quite a prolonged period of time, but it got them well, for one, they didn't pick up any bad habits from the amateurs. You see a lot of amateurs who turn over now, and they're slapping, they're really looking to build up the points, and they're having to learn almost a completely new style while they're going about their pro career. If you turn pro without having a lot of amateur fights, and you do it kind of on the job, you tend to not have that problem. You learn that pro style very early, and the pro style and the amateur style, they're worlds apart. They really, really are. It's a whole other universe. May as well be a different sport. They're so different. So I'd always say no, but it does help. And when I seen Fabio Wardley first, I looked and thought, you know what, this guy is going to be entertaining. But there was a lot of, I don't want to call them red flags, but maybe that's the best word you could use, where I looked and I thought, okay, entertaining, he's got a bit of speed, has punching power, jab looks on point. For someone who didn't have a lot of amateur fights, or any really, white collar is not amateur, he looks not bad, but there's flaws there. You could see it early on in his career, and I think that they actually moved him along a little bit too quick. They gave him an Eric Molina, Eric Molina is someone who's always had Eric Molina is someone who's lost fights he should have won. Like, I think I'm sure when Eric Molina saw Alan Babbage versus Johnny Fisher, he probably thought, damn, I wish I tried in that fight. Because when you look at it, Eric Molina, Alan Babbage, at their best, Eric Molina would knock Alan Babbage. I mean, he probably could have done it in their respective fight, but Eric Molina is that type of a fighter. He maybe will try, or maybe he won't, or if he tries, he'll try for a round, and then where's the canvas, where's the nice pot to lie down? All right, give me my paycheck. I'll use that as a bed sheet. That's Eric Molina. Now, they pulled the brakes on him a little bit after that fight, put him in with Nick Webb, and yeah, first round knockout. Nick Webb is not the quickest heavyweight in the world, But even going into that fight, I was looking, thinking Nick Webb's going to be dangerous. Nathan Gorman, the jab from Nathan Gorman, who actually lost his next fight, I think, after that, on points to a Ukrainian heavyweight. I think that Ukrainian heavyweight turned out to be a little bit better than we all thought, obviously. But even in that fight, you could see the jab was bothering Fabio Wardley. He was just able to turn it on and just be way more ferocious and just almost kind of put it all on the line when he didn't need to, and would catch his opponents off guard and just kind of like, oh wow, you're going for it. Oh, wasn't ready for that. Oh, I'm done. I'm finished. That was kind of what Fabio Wardley was doing. And I thought, what, when you move him up the levels, he's got to have more to his game than that. He has to have more to his game than that. That's why I was always kind of looking at Wardley thinking, you're going to be in great fights, you're going to be entertaining as hell, but how far can you really go in this sport? And again, I've looked at people who've not had particularly long or stellar amateur careers like Anthony Yarde, and I've taught more to them. Even though someone like Anthony Yarde, even now in his mid-30s, I mean, I don't even want to go into it again, but, he's got a crap manager who doesn't know what the hell he's doing and has absolutely effed his whole career up. We don't know how good Anthony Yarde really could have been, and that's someone with very little amateur fights, 10 amateur fights. Fabio Wardley, I never looked at him at the time and thought he's going to be even as talented as an Anthony Yarde, and Anthony Yarde's done F all, but, get to fight for world titles, I thought that would even be an achievement. But then he goes in there with David Alaye, and, Adelaide, I think really the second round and maybe another round in that fight were the only rounds he had a little bit of success. And you got to bear in mind how antagonistic the whole of Team Adelaide were to someone like a Fabio Wardley. And at the time I was thinking, man, he's going to capitulate so quick in that fight. He's probably not used to something like that, having this kind of aggressive team, coming at him, as well as David Adelaide, who I never really rated that highly, but I thought was better than Fabio Wardley at the time, and the videos are still up, you can go and see them. But Wardley did a great job in that fight. He knocked David Alaye out in 7 rounds. And Alaye since then has come back to get a first round knockout win over Solomon Dacus. Although Dacus, I said at the time, and I stand by it, I didn't. It was a shock to me so early the first round, but it wasn't a shock to me of the nature of the victory, if you know what I mean. A big knockout win for Adelaide. I thought that was almost an inevitability. So, that wins aged not too bad. Then he goes in with Fraser Clark, a former Olympian. And yeah, Clark hasn't looked stellar as a pro. And I think Clark knows that his ceiling is not crazy high. But he goes in and really but it gives us arguably the fight of the year for 2024. And goes in there with a guy who's vastly more experienced as an amateur, drops him, and arguably wins the fight. The only thing Wardley didn't do as well was he wasn't as good at keeping a poker face when he was fatigued as Fraser Clark was. Fraser Clark was more fatigued. By the end of that fight, Fraser Clark literally collapsed in the corner, literally sank down in the corner. He was so fatigued. You would never think it because he was able to hide it and mask it a lot better. It just comes with experience at the end of the day. But that's a minor little nitpick. I realised, okay, Wardley probably has more to give in the rematch. I didn't expect a first round knockout where he literally, dints Fraser Clark's head in. That was just mind blowing and still mind boggling now to look at it. And now he's been ranked number 1 by the WBA as Fabio Wardley. And the more I see him, the more I see improvements, the more I think, God damn, you really could do something at world level. Now, when I look at the guys at world level, I'm not going to mention the likes of Usyk because I think Usyk will be gone by the time, Wardley is ready for a title shot or anything like that. Possibly the same with Tyson Fury. It could just be the Joshua Fury show for the next year. They might have a fight. They might have 2 fights. So I'm kind of going to put them to one side, and I can't see that. But when I look at someone like a Fabio Wardley versus Daniel Dubois, I'd be making Dubois a favourite, but I see that as a really intriguing fight because Fabio Wardley, he would go for the jugular, I would imagine, like that with Dubois, and Dubois would happily oblige. You're talking about 2 massive punchers. I could see that being really entertaining. I think that Bacoli, that fight could go. I'd be a bit more confident picking Bacoli to win that fight, but still, I could see that being a really, really good fight. Caballel versus Fabio Wardley, that'd be a really intriguing fight. You've got the mover in Adji Caballel, the mover, it could be a bit negative at times, but how would he fare against the speed and the ferocity of a Fabio Wardley? That'd be great to watch. Lawrence Okolie both Queensberry fighters. And I do believe a lot of people were saying that's one of the reasons why Frank actually brought Lawrence into the Queensberry stable, was to do a big domestic clash with Fabio Wardley. There are rumours knocking around. And again, I guess you could say, I'm not doing a dedicated video to it, but I guess you could say I'm talking about it in this video. But there are rumours that obviously Frank Warren, his first show with the Zone, you're not going to do a first show with the Zone and, just go and, do a little, random show. Here we are on the Zone. You got to want to do something big first. The WWE is going on to Netflix and there's talk of The Rock and this, that, and the other. You hear people talk about that. You don't just, when you go onto a new platform, just, hi, here we are. We've got a few fighters. You might not know them, but here you go. There you go. They're not going to do it. They're going to go and pull out all the stops. And the rumor mill is that it's going to be headlined by Fabio Wardley, against whom we don't know. If it was Lawrence Okoli, hell of a flipping way to announce yourself on the Zone. If it was, I'm not saying it is. I haven't heard anything about that or anything like that. But if it was, hell of a way. But I'd look at that fight and I'd think, you know what? I'd give Fabio, I'd probably even make him favourite over Lawrence Okoli, to be honest with you. I think that this guy he's proved me very wrong. And I hold my hands up and I'll say, listen, I got him all wrong. Do I think he has the potential to be undisputed? Do I think he has the potential to do and go and unify or anything like that? No, I don't. I don't. And I think most people watching would be of that mindset, would be of that view that Wardley probably won't unify. He might pick up a world title, you never know. But probably isn't going to do an Alexander Usyk or something like that. Probably wouldn't even do an Anthony Joshua where, looks to pick up belts and this, that, and the other, maybe loses a couple of times. But probably wouldn't do that. But I still think he's going to be a formidable opponent at world level for any of these top guys. I really do. And I think that over the last 2 years, we've really seen Fabio Wardley, make a lot of inroads in his career. And again, for someone who's coming from a white-collar background, and you see fighters who've been amateur for years and years, and they've fought at a decent level, maybe they haven't gone to the Olympics or anything, but they fought at a decent enough level, and then not look as polished and not look as impressive, really, let's be honest, as a Fabio Wardley, is testament to the God-given ability he has. And I think Wardley is going to do great things in 2025. I really do. And to be honest with you, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with him. He's with Frank Warren, who has just seemingly a monopoly of heavyweights now at this stage. Frank Warren, it's just that he knows what to do. He knows where the money's at, and that's what he's doing. He's stocking it up with heavyweights. And as well as that, Warren has always been a very good matchmaker. He's always been a very good matchmaker. He's good at guiding his talent a certain way. And I think he'll do a great job with Fabio Wardley this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. And if he is headlining Frank Warren's first DAZN show, which I would imagine it'll probably be February again, we kind of really hear about that. He'll probably want to hold off until the TNT stuff is really winding down, because TNT are not going to promote shows in DAZN, are they now? To be honest with you, they're not going to do that. We're here in April time is when it's going to be, roughly. So let's wait and see. But man, I look forward to seeing Fabio Wardley in big fights in 2025, and I genuinely think that there's a lot that this guy still has left to untap. I do. And I got it completely wrong with Fabio Wardley. I thought that he'd always be entertaining, but would be I don't want to say a Johnny Fisher, so I think he's better than that. But, well, at the time I did think he was better than that. But you know what I mean? Like someone who's around British level. Nope, better than that. Let me know your thoughts on Fabio Wardley. I hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, of course, as always. And until next time, people, peace.